Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Before I get started, I want to let you all know about my social media. I encourage you all to follow me and support me on social media. I'm on Twitter at New Pos Blog. I will include a link in the description box. Also, I'm on Tumblr at It's New Possibilities. That will be in the description box as well. I have a Facebook page entitled New Possibilities. That page is really neglected. I started it a while ago, but I haven't really maintained it and advertised it as well as I should. So I hope you all can follow that page, like that page on Facebook. So now that that's out of the way, I also want to let you know that I plan to write an article on my blog, New Possibilities. I will include a link to that article. Hopefully, I'll be able to write it tonight if I have time, or it may be tomorrow. But that article will be responding to an article written by Tariq Nasheed. And Tariq Nasheed's article basically is about why African Americans should not vote. And if you are at all familiar with my channel, you know that I strongly advocate voting. You know, the idea of someone not voting is just repugnant to me and, illogical and just not a wise or intelligent decision. So I plan to break down his article point by point, and I may do a follow-up video to that article, but I encourage you all to check that out and to support my blog. There's a link on my blog page where you can follow it so that you will receive postings of each article that I write on my blog. I plan to get back into writing blogs as well. It's been quite some time since I've actually written a blog. I just haven't been inspired to write, but this recent article has inspired me to get back into it. I plan to do it more regularly. Okay, so now that that stuff is out of the way, I just want to spend some time with you all talking about the concept of culture, the role of culture in our struggle. And I want to use the performance of Kendrick Lamar during the Grammys and Beyonce's performance during the Super Bowl and her video as like talking points to launch this discussion. I don't know how many of you all saw Kendrick Lamar's performance during the Grammys, but that was a powerful performance. It was rich with content. The lyrics had a lot of substance to them. The imagery was powerful, compelling. I like how they walked out onto the stage in shackles, dressed as prisoners, bringing attention to the issue of mass incarceration in the black community, the modern day slavery that exists in our communities. As Michelle Alexander points out in her book, and if you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. A while ago, I did a book review of her book, The New Jim Crow. That is mandatory reading for anybody that wants to understand the plight of African American people today. But in that book, she points out how there are more black people under the tutelage and control of the criminal justice system than there were in slavery. So it's a very powerful book, and Kendrick Lamar just brings this issue to the attention of the American people and of the world through his performance. And I commend him for doing so. And his performance emphasized African pride and respect. In his song, The Blacker the Berry, he talked about how he was as black as the moon. He expressed pride in his natural African hair and features. And at some point at the end of the video, he has a map or the shape of Africa as a backdrop. and he has African dances in his video. And one thing that I really like about the music, other than the strong, powerful lyrics where he's talking about black pride and he's addressing the question of police brutality, other than that, I really like the sound of the music. I like the infusion of jazz with hip hop, and that infusion reminded me of A Tribe Called Quest. They were one of the first groups that mixed jazz and hip hop. And also, it reminded me of the spoken word tradition, the poetic tradition of groups like the Last Poets and Gil Scott Heron. It reminded me of those poets. So his performance was rich, it was powerful, and the faces in the audience were priceless. Seeing their reaction to this powerful, compelling performance. Now, Kendrick Lamar is receiving a lot of praise. A lot of us are praising him. A lot of conscious people are praising him. And just people who appreciate black culture are praising him. But of course, there are detractors, people who are complaining about his message against police brutality, much like how people are complaining about Beyonce. So I noticed that a lot of the black conscious community, they are proud of Kendrick Lamar's performance. They are celebrating it. Those same people did not have the same reaction to Beyonce's performance. And I just want to ask you all a question. Why do you think that is? You had two powerful performances that talked about political issues, the issue of police brutality. Both of the songs expressed African pride, but both of them received different reactions. Many in the conscious community found reasons to criticize Beyonce. They found reasons to hate on Beyonce. And the odd thing is that the most conscious of people essentially found themselves in the same camp with the most reactionary and racist white people. Just like those racist white people were hating on Beyonce's performance, you had some of the most conscious black people hating on her performance as well. And I just wonder, why is that? Why would you hate on a black woman performing a tribute to the Black Panthers, a black woman speaking out through song against police brutality, a black woman celebrating African features, natural hair, and other features that are African? Why would you hate on that, but then celebrate the brother? So I just have a question about that. I also want to respond to some of the criticism that has been put out here against Beyonce. Not from the black conscious community, but from right-wing white commentators. People are trying to draw comparisons between the KKK and the Black Panthers. The KKK was a terrorist organization. They lynched black people, they beat black people, they burned black people alive, they terrified black people, terrorized black people. They tried to do everything in their power to prevent us from exercising our rights as citizens in this country, like our right to vote. They shot black people, they bombed black churches, killed black children. They terrorized our community. On the other hand, the Black Panthers were responding to state-sponsored terrorism. They were responding to police brutality. There was a time when the police could stop and harass people for no reason at all and brutalize people freely and openly with no accountability at all. And many say that the same thing happens today. And we have many examples of that. We have countless examples of black people killed by the police, strangled by the police, beaten by the police. So the Black Panthers were defending themselves and their community from police brutality, from police terrorism. The Black Panthers didn't lynch anybody. There is no example of the Black Panthers lynching any white people. There's no example of the Black Panthers bombing any white churches or any white people. There are no such examples. The Black Panthers were not a racist organization. In fact, many left-wing white people supported the Black Panthers. They supported the Free Huey campaign. They supported the programs of the Black Panthers. You know, the Black Panthers weren't about just defending themselves as well. The Black Panthers provided food, health care, and all other kinds of services to the black community. They were not a terrorist organization. Again, they were defending themselves against terrorism. I heard this woman, I can't recall her name, but she had a debate with this radio personality, Charlamagne. This white woman had a debate with him. And this woman was basically saying, well, the Black Panthers were about violence and Martin Luther King was about peace and they were contrary to King's message. First of all, the Black Panthers were not racist. As Bobby Seale pointed out, they don't hate people because of the color of their skin. They hate oppression. They hate police brutality. That's what the real Black Panthers stood for. They always want us to romanticize and celebrate nonviolence. They want us to idolize a man who turned the other cheek, a man who loved his enemies, a man who thought that it was somehow righteous to suffer. They want us to love that image of King. That's the image of King that they give us. That's the image of King that they want us to idolize and to follow. When these same white people don't follow nonviolence for themselves. When they have an issue with a country, they bomb that country. When somebody strikes them, they strike them back. Not only do they kill the person responsible for attacking them, they destroy that person's family. They destroy those people, period. History tells us this. We look at the history after 9/11 and all the drone attacks throughout the Middle East. We look at the history of World War II when they dropped nuclear bombs on Japan. We look at the history and the founding of this nation itself. They saw this country and they took this country from the native people. They killed the native people. They committed genocide against the native people. And these same white people want us to be nonviolent when these same white people use violence to further their interests any chance that they get. These same white people have military bases all over the world, dropping bombs on people, sponsoring all kinds of coups and violence around the world, and they have the audacity to expect us to be nonviolent in the face of the most violent brutality that we've seen in a long time. Every other day you hear about a black person being killed by these stinking police. And they expect us to be on some we shall overcome type bullshit. Well, we're tired of that. We've had enough of that. And people are taking on a more bold and stronger stance. And artists like Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce, they are reflecting the times in which they live. You can't be an artist today and ignore what's going on and ignore these demonstrations in the street against police brutality ignore the deaths of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Sean Bell, Eric Garner. You can't ignore that. And in the tradition of Nina Simone and Marvin Gaye, Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar are following that tradition of reflecting the times. See, we have to use our culture as a tool of liberation. It must be a weapon for our freedom. It must be like a sharpened spear, a spear that needs to be driven through the heart of white supremacy and capitalism. Driven through its heart, driven through the heart of this beast, like a stake through the heart of a vampire. A vampire that's sucking away our dreams, taking away our lives. Yeah, so culture has to be used as a weapon for our liberation. The problem is, too many of our young people, instead of using the culture as a weapon for liberation, they are using their culture against their own people. They are using their culture to promote the destruction of our people. And it's no accident. This is by design. These companies promote music that celebrates the destruction of black communities. They support music that glorifies gang life. Glorifies a lifestyle where fools kill each other over streets and blocks that they don't even own. Where fools kill each other over colors. You have these artists that aren't even really about that gang life. I was watching an interview with MC8 on Vlad TV, and he was talking about this. He was talking about how you have these artists that don't even live in that kind of environment, weren't raised in that kind of environment, but after becoming successful artists, they want to take on the gangster lifestyle. They want to celebrate the gangster lifestyle, a lifestyle that is sending our young men and women to graves much too young over foolishness. But this is what the music promotes. It promotes debauchery. It promotes a stripper lifestyle. It promotes black men being players instead of providers and maintainers. It promotes materialism over everything. Where all these people sing about is how many material things they can acquire. Where all these people sing about is how much drugs they're selling in the community, how much drugs they're using, how wasted they're getting. Celebrating drug abuse and drug dealing. Celebrating the destruction of our community. And many young people hear this music and they want to follow that example. Nobody protests against these artists when they talk about killing each other, killing black people. When these artists are beefing with each other. You don't hear these police groups rallying against those artists then. You don't hear these white people speaking out against hip-hop at that point. Except for occasionally you may hear Sean Hannity using it as an excuse to attack the entire black community. But for the most part, these artists can sing about killing black people all day and night. But the minute they put on a performance that calls for black people to defend themselves from police brutality, all of a sudden is a problem. All of a sudden they need to be boycotted. See, they don't have a problem with black people killing themselves. But they do have a problem when black people deal with their oppressor. So those are just my thoughts. I just hope that more artists embrace the movement of today, just like the artists of the 60s and 70s embraced the movement at that time. Artists like Nina Simone embraced the movement. Even an artist like James Brown embraced the movement by singing songs like I'm Black and I'm Proud. We have to use our culture as a tool of liberation. And we need to stop supporting artists who promote the destruction of our community. And we need to stop providing excuses for this pathological, destructive, and dysfunctional music that's put out here that celebrates the effeminization of black men. How these men walking around with their pants practically off of them, pants all the way down. They might as well not even be wearing pants as low as they had their pants on. So yeah, we just need to recognize these artists when they do the right thing by supporting the movement, not just with their song and performance, but with their money as well. I know that Beyonce and Jay-Z, they have donated money to the Black Lives Matter cause, and I hope that more entertainers do the same. So tell me what you think. Why do you think Beyonce is being treated differently than Kendrick Lamar? And what do you think about the state of our culture today? Peace.